Assalamu alaikum, students. Today we study the rights of women in Islam. One of the most important and most misunderstood topics in Islamic teaching. Before Islam, women in Arabia, and across most of the ancient world, had few legal rights. They could not own property, could not inherit, could not choose their spouse, and were often treated as property themselves. In Arabia, some female infants were buried alive at birth. Islam, in the 7th century, made a radical declaration: women are equal to men in spiritual status, in moral accountability, and in access to Allah's mercy, and they have specific legal rights that must be protected. By the end of this lesson, you will be able to explain how Islam changed the status of women in Arabia, state the spiritual equality of women in Islam, list key legal and social rights of Muslim women, and apply these teachings to the status of women in Nigerian Muslim communities. The Quran explicitly declares the spiritual equality of men and women. Surah Al-Ahzab chapter 33, verse 35. Indeed, the Muslim men and Muslim women, the believing men and believing women, the obedient men and obedient women, the truthful men and truthful women, the patient men and patient women, the humble men and humble women, the charitable men and charitable women, the fasting men and fasting women, the men who guard their chastity and the women who do so, and the men who remember Allah often and the women who do so, for them Allah has prepared forgiveness and a great reward. Every category is listed for both men and women equally. There is no suggestion that men have a greater spiritual capacity or a higher spiritual reward. Surah Al-Imran chapter 3, verse 195. And their Lord responded to them, "Never will I allow to be lost the work of any worker among you, whether male or female, you are of one another." Islam gave Muslim women specific legal rights that were revolutionary for their time and remain important today. Right to own property. A Muslim woman has the full right to own property, land, money, business, in her own name. Her wealth is hers alone. She is not required to contribute it to the household, though she may choose to. This right was established in Islam in the 7th century, over 1,000 years before women in England gained the right to own property after marriage, 1870 CE. Right to inheritance. The Quran grants women the right to inherit, from parents, spouses, and children. Surah An-Nisa chapter 4, verse 7, men have a share of what parents and near relatives leave, and women have a share, whether small or large, a legal share. Before Islam, women were excluded from inheritance entirely. The Islamic system gives women half the share of men in most cases, but this is balanced by the fact that men have the financial obligation of maintaining the household, while women have no such obligation. Right to education. The Prophet said, "Seeking knowledge is an obligation upon every Muslim." This includes women. The wives of the Prophet, especially Aisha, were scholars and teachers. Aisha is credited with narrating approximately 2,300 hadith. Thousands of male scholars studied under her. Islam does not restrict women from scholarship or education. Right to consent in marriage. A Muslim woman cannot be forced into marriage. The Prophet said, "A previously married woman must not be given in marriage without her explicit consent, and a virgin must not be given in marriage without her consent. Her silence is her consent." Forced marriage is invalid in Islamic law. Right to divorce. A Muslim woman has the right to seek divorce through the courts, called khul, by returning her mahr. She is not trapped in an abusive or harmful marriage. Right to keep her surname. A Muslim woman does not have to take her husband's surname, an interesting contrast with some Western customs. She retains her own identity. It is important for students to distinguish between what Islam teaches and what cultural practice sometimes does. In many parts of northern Nigeria, girls are withdrawn from school at puberty. This contradicts the Islamic obligation of education for all Muslims. In some communities, women are denied their inheritance rights. This directly violates Quranic law. Forced marriage, especially child marriage before physical and emotional maturity, occurs in some communities. This also violates Islamic law. Islamic scholars in Nigeria, including the Sultan of Sokoto and the Jamaatu Nasrul Islam, have consistently spoken against practices that deny women their Quranic rights. A society that oppresses women in the name of Islam is contradicting Islam. The Prophet's farewell sermon commanded, "Fear Allah regarding your women, for you have taken them as a trust from Allah." Let us review. Spiritual equality, men and women equally accountable and rewarded by Allah. Quran 33:35, 3:195. Right to own property, independently and in full. Right to inheritance, Quran 4:7, half man's share with compensating financial obligations. Right to education, seeking knowledge is obligatory for all Muslims. Right to consent in marriage, forced marriage is invalid. Right to divorce, through court. Challenge in Nigeria, cultural practices must not be confused with Islamic law. For homework, write a letter as a Nigerian Muslim student to a community that is denying women their Quranic rights. Use specific Quranic verses and hadith to make your argument.